Hello all, welcome to my channel once again, and basically I'd like to highlight a major fact that is, again I'll mention, hardly ever talked about in lots of circles of debate. We talk about improving lifestyle for average Australian from housing, etc. But 96% of Australians live on just over 3.5% of the whole territory. So we've got to take into account what on earth is going on, what are we doing as a society to bridge the gap between large cities to proper commuting in smaller townships that we could actually make into real satellite cities, and raising this through perhaps even Parliament, in my opinion. So, this is a social problem internationally. But I'm talking about the one we have in Australia in particular, where cities are, even 3,000-4,000 kilometres apart.
Well, here's a real statistic that, like it or not, is hardly ever emphasised enough within urban planning communities, local councils. This is actually a world problem. But let's focus on one aspect, that 96% of Australia's population live on approximately 3.5% of the territory. I'll repeat that. 96% of Australians live on 3.5% of the turf. Entire turf of a subcontinent, a continent. So basically, what is constantly emphasized, and I've watched urban planning forums, multinational, international, and all these gurus have all these wonderful ideas for our cities, yet no one has actually ever come up with it. And this is really an international problem, but let's focus on the issues that we have with the housing crisis in Australia, where an average home Australia-wide is about 700,000. That's an average between all the cities, country towns, etc., etc. Now, what $700,000 is today, or $800,000, is equivalent to about $400,000 10 years ago. I'll repeat that. The dollar halves every 10 years, and it's actually a lot worse than that. When they show you these inflationary figures, they include things like washing machines that you can really find on Gumtree or eBay. Those type of things go into what we call annual inflation. It's absolutely the biggest blasphemy, where it's something that's hardly ever talked about. Real monetary policies are not taught in school. Forget these economists and the old school of Austrian school of economics. Those days are gone. That doesn't exist. The currencies have failed all over. We have a time where Australian dollar's been weaker than ever. Higher interest rates have actually created more inflation because there's more inflation. Isn't there? How is it not? It's just this time around, everyday Joe Blow, families, etc., paying for it. Now, the problem we've got is really within structures and emphasising smaller townships to be properly independent of larger cities. And it's just an aspect that is totally overlooked, and I think it will be for some time, until there's an actual only one way to protest, and that's a lack of participation. Without a lack of participation, protests are going to be useless, because we are still way too comfortable in Australia to give up our everyday lives, so we kind of put up with it. Average speed limit in Melbourne is about 18 kilometres an hour, which is all great, but why are we having to go through these scenarios where we've got two-way streets? Has anyone not even thought about the fact that we need street management? We don't need new freeways and blockages before we get to the freeways, as far as choke points that are purposely created, by the way. Yes, they are, because at the end of the day, the economies keep on ticking. Councils need to spend X amount of their budget annually, otherwise it's a useless program, and that's just how it is. Annually, X amount of dollars need to be spent, and most of these programs are actually useless. We don't need over-congested major cities, but we certainly need a proper look at how do we include townships for proper growth, and taking into account environmentals and all that, all the other aspects that go along with it. But I mean, some bank lenders will not lend on a home that's outside certain districts. Look it up. Because without these districts, they will value it at a very conservative rate, and you may not even be able to borrow anything on a home. So Australian homes are pretty cheap. You can find a home for 20 grand. But you can't claim Centrelink, you can't claim a pension, you can't get a loan for it, it's not recognisable. Doesn't that make you think, what is going on?